Hey guys, and welcome back to week number 3 of August and week number 2 of our series called In Charge. This series is all about looking at the idea of authority and how we can look at it differently. This week specifically, we're going to be looking at maybe some authority figures that really aren't that great and how we can treat them honorably. All right guys, I'm going to send you off into the video and I'll be back again right after the teaching video to send you off with a little outro. All right guys, enjoy.
What's up guys, I'm Allie, and today I want to talk about how I was never able to be in charge in my family when I was growing up. Okay, when my parents would leave the house, they would put my brother in charge. When that brother would leave the house, he would put the other brother in charge. And then when that brother would leave the house, he would pretty much put the dog in charge, and I never got to be in charge until I went over to my friend Maggie's house. Now, Maggie was the oldest in her family, and she had 6 little brothers. Yes, 6 little brothers. Okay, and so me and Maggie got to boss those brothers around. We got them to clean her room for us. We got them to do plays, and we would tell them exactly what to do. We would have them make food for us, and it was awesome. I loved being in charge. I love to be in charge. I love to be in charge. And honestly, I still love when I get to be in charge now. But if you're anything like me, you'd admit that while you love being in charge of someone or something, you don't always love when someone else is in charge of or has authority over you. Authority. It simply means that someone has the power or right to be in charge of someone or something. When you have authority, it means you have the ability to make decisions or set rules or influence someone else. And when someone has authority over you, it means they have the ability to do all that in a way that directly affects you. So why are we talking about this? The truth is, authority is something we'll have to deal with for our entire lives. And that's why I hope that by challenging how we think about authority now, we'll be able to deal with the people in charge of us both now and later. Maybe to some of us, having to listen to authority might not seem like that big of a deal. We don't mind having a parent or a teacher or a coach in charge from time to time. We like the authority figures in our lives. Our parents or guardians are awesome. We love our teachers, we love our coaches, and our leaders at church, they are literally the best. So, even though we might not always be happy with the things they ask us to do or the rules we have to follow, we trust those people. We respect them. They are easy authority figures to follow. But to others of us, having someone in charge of us in some way for the rest of our lives sounds like the worst news you've heard all day. And why is that? Well, I actually lead a group of middle schoolers, and I asked them what's the hardest part about following authority. And here is what they said. Here we go. It can be annoying when we tell them we have a better way or option and they don't listen to us or hear us out. That can be annoying. You're right. Sometimes they say things I may not want to hear. That's real. People say that all the time. Parents and school teachers can be annoying. They always tell you what to do and when. Sometimes you don't even want to if it's good. That is true. Even when it's good, you don't want to because they're telling you and you don't want to be told. I get it. Because sometimes I don't want to listen. Simple and true. Thanks, orange card. Sometimes the person in charge doesn't know what they're doing. Caught. No, they don't. I don't know what I'm doing. What? Because what they're telling us to do, we've already done, but can't tell them because we'll get in trouble. That is so relatable. That's so real. Yes. Sometimes it's hard because there is something we know that they don't. Sometimes we know stuff, guys. Sometimes I just don't want someone in charge of me. Yeah. That's right. Let me clean up this mess. I totally understand all these reasons for why you struggle with authority. I've been there, and I still have moments when it's hard to follow someone who's in charge. We all have so many reasons why it's hard to deal with authority. But I think one of the main reasons is this. We don't always trust the people in charge. We haven't had the best authority figures in our lives, and that makes the thought of being under authority forever feel really scary. Like when they ask us to do things that we know aren't right, or when we see them do things that we know that aren't right. When they treat us unfairly based on our age, or where we live, or the color of our skin. When they hurt or threaten or abandon or abuse us. When they don't care about how their decisions affect us, or when they don't apologize or correct their actions for being unfair. That's when having someone in charge doesn't feel so great. Maybe you totally get this because you're dealing with that very thing right now. Your relationship with authority is complicated and messy because your authority figures can be, well, complicated and messy. Maybe you have a teacher who doesn't grade everyone fairly. You work hard, but you know you can't improve your grade because the teacher only gives good grades to the people on the football team they coach. Or maybe you have a cousin who watches movies or things on the internet in front of you and you know you're not supposed to see it. They don't seem to care that it makes you uncomfortable or breaks the rules in your house. Maybe you have a coach who's just really mean. They scream at you, call you names, make fun of the way you look, and talk down to everyone on your team. You know you're supposed to listen to them, but you don't think the way they treat you or your teammates is right. Or maybe for you, the issue with authority goes even deeper. Maybe you struggle with police officers because of the way you've seen them treat people in the past. You know you're supposed to listen and follow their rules, but they don't always seem like they're using their authority the right way. Or maybe you have an older sibling who has asked you to keep a secret, some things that they're doing wrong. Things like drugs or alcohol or self-harm that you know can be dangerous. Are you supposed to listen to their leading even if you know that it's wrong? Or maybe you've had a leader at church who told you all the ways God wants you to live, but then you found out that they weren't living that way at all. And not only did it confuse you, but it left you feeling really, really hurt. Or maybe you have an adult in your life who is hurting you. They're doing something that you know is wrong, and they're doing it to you. You want to say something or ask them to stop, but they're in charge and told you not to say a word. So then what do you do with that authority? Before we go on, let me say this. If you're being hurt or abused by anyone in your life, that is wrong. There's no question about it, and speaking up is the best thing that you can do. The people in charge here, like your group leaders, want to help you and find support that you need to make this change. So please know this is a safe place to speak up today. No matter what your relationship with authority is now, the reality is that in some point in our lives, we're going to find ourselves dealing with some great people in charge, and other times there are some not so great people in charge. And because of that, we have to ask ourselves this question: what do we do when we have to deal with bad authority? Thankfully, we're not the only ones in history who have struggled feeling this way. Today, I want to talk about a guy named David who had to decide how to deal with an authority figure in his life who wasn't always that great. You see, God had actually picked David to be the next king of Israel. Pretty amazing, right? There was just one problem. There was already a king named Saul, and he did not want to give up his throne. In fact, Saul wanted to stay king so badly that he decided it would be a good idea to kill David. Not the best use of your authority, if you ask me. When David found this out, he literally ran for his life, and that's where we pick things up. King Saul and his army had been chasing David around the land, and this time they were getting pretty close to actually finding him. David and his men must have known that the army was coming because they decided to hide in a cave. Pretty soon, Saul and his army ended up walking right by the exact cave that David was hiding in. Saul himself even went into the cave for a quick bathroom break. Yikes. Gross. Ugh. Of course, David's men encouraged him to use this opportunity to take Saul out. I mean, this was David's chance. Years of frustration and confusion had finally come down to this moment. Saul had been an awful authority in David's life, and now David finally had a chance to do something about it. Actually, hold on, I'll show you. The world! Yes. One slash of the sword and David's problems with Saul would be over. But look at what David decided to do instead. David crept forward and cut off a piece of the hem of Saul's robe. What? That's not how this was supposed to go down. This was supposed to be David's chance to finally get even, to right the wrongs being done to him by the king who was in charge. But he let Saul go. I mean, Saul left the cave without even knowing David was in there. Then David did something even crazier. He ran out after Saul and got his attention. He showed him the piece of cloth in his hand, and Saul knew that David had spared his life. And what David said next explained it all. May the Lord judge between us. Perhaps the Lord will punish you for what you are trying to do to me, but I will never harm you. As that old proverb says, from evil people come evil deeds, so that you can be sure I will never harm you. May the Lord therefore judge which of us is right and punish the guilty one. He is my advocate, and he will rescue me from your power. David could have taken down Saul right then and there. And if we're being honest, he probably had good reason to do it. But what David realized is that even though Saul was powerful, David made a powerful decision. David chose to be honorable. I love how in that moment David quoted a saying that he had heard growing up. From evil people come evil deeds. He's basically said, I'm not going to be one of those evil people, King Saul. You may be like that, but that's not me. Saul may have been a killer, but David would not be. Saul may have been disrespectful, but David would not stoop to his level. Saul may have been wrong and evil and deserving of dishonor, but David knew that in honoring Saul, David was ultimately honoring God. And the same thing goes for you and for me. We can't choose what the authority figures in our lives will do. We can't decide when they're going to do the right thing and when they aren't. And we certainly don't all have the chance to get back at them while they're going to the bathroom. But we can honor God by choosing the best actions and responses to the authority in our lives. We can choose to be honorable no matter what's going on around us. Maybe this looks like talking to your principal if your teacher is discriminating against your classmates. Or maybe you need to respectfully disagree when an adult says something rude about another person. If any leader is hurting you or asking you to hurt yourself or others, this is an authority you should not listen to. I know figuring out how to not listen to a bad authority is challenging. Don't ever hesitate to seek out another trusted adult to help you think through how you will respond when you face those moments. Their actions, no matter who it is, don't have to determine our response. Does that mean we always obey? Always give in? Nope. He did decide, however, that no amount of Saul's evil could force him to do evil as well. It wasn't worth it. He wouldn't become like the person he was running from. You can always choose to be honorable. Now listen, I know that's easier said than done. I get that it isn't going to be simple, but it is possible to be honorable even when the authority figures in our lives aren't acting all that honorable themselves. You can always choose to be honorable, but honoring someone doesn't mean we obey everything they say, agree with them, and worship them. Honoring bad authority means choosing to be honorable in how we respond to them. So, how do we even do that? First, think about what you say and how you say it. How you talk to your authority and about your authority really matters. Don't raise your voice, get mean, or call them names. Choose your words wisely when you're talking both to and about your authority. It's okay to speak up when you feel you've been wronged, misunderstood, or disrespected. But as you speak up, remember to do it with respect. Second, remember they're human too. Our authority figures aren't perfect, even the good ones. They're going to mess up, make mistakes, and say and do things they shouldn't. When that happens, we can choose to remember that just like us, they aren't going to get it right all the time. And instead of shutting down or blowing up when that happens, we can choose to honor them by giving them a chance to right their wrongs or do better next time. After all, don't we want people to do that for us? And finally, do what's safe for you. Some of you might be in a situation where the person in charge is using their authority in a way that's dangerous or harmful to you. If that's you, I want to say I'm so sorry that you've been put in that situation. And I want you to know that sometimes being honorable means speaking up when you're not safe. When you're being hurt, abused, or asked to do something that isn't safe, being honorable means getting help. So if you're listening right now and you feel like you need to speak up about something, I want to encourage you to talk to your small group leader or another trusted adult about this today. They want to help you be honorable by doing what is safe for you. Remember, you can always choose to be honorable. And while that might not be the easiest choice to make sometimes, the good news is you have people in your group and your group leader to make sure you don't have to make that choice alone. Your group is a great place to talk about how you can choose to be honorable toward the people in charge that may not be all that easy to honor.
Well, welcome back, guys. Really hope you enjoyed the video. I know we talked about this last week, but sometimes it can be really hard to deal with authority, especially when that authority might not be the best. You can both honor yourself and the person of authority by speaking up and letting someone else know what's going on if it's a bad situation. Okay, now I have a question for you to discuss with a parent or a small group leader, friend, sibling, something like that. Have you ever had to deal with a difficult authority figure in your life, and what exactly made them hard to deal with? Don't have to name names or anything, just discuss, like what I said, with a parent or a sibling or something like that. All right, guys, I'm going to pray, and then I will send you off into your week. So I'm going to bow my head and fold my hands, but you guys can do whatever you need to do to focus on the prayer. Dear Lord, I thank you for the topic of this month's teaching. I thank you that we could take this time to recognize the importance of respecting our authority figures and learning how to be honorable to the authority figures who might not be as great. I pray for the people who might not have the best authority figures in their life, and I pray that you would help them be honorable to themselves and to those authority figures. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, guys, that is it for week 3 of October and week 2 of our In Charge series. Josh will be here the next 2 weeks, so that is it for me for this month. I will see you again in November. See you guys.